ashes, the spirits light up the night, looking down the edge of forever. So stop me and take my advice. I beat you again.
I gotta work on my clicking skills.
We should start doing dollar bets.
I don't know. I'm gonna have I don't know where my mind is. I
was with your brother today, and we stopped, and he surprised me with a bunch of those stupid pull tab scratch offs.
Oh yeah, he got you a bunch.
And of course, he gives me one. I get zip. He's scratching. He's like every line he's winning. And this is like a $10 scratchy, you know. And he's like winning. I don't like every line. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I have never won on those ever.
And then he got me those donuts.
Oh yeah, with the winnings. No. I had to pay for the donuts too. I got stuck with the lattes and the donuts for everybody.
I know.
He put the profit in his pocket.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wake up from that donut.
He's like, the guy's got moss coming out of his wallet. God. I swear, though, I've never won on those ever.
Never.
Yeah,
same here.
I'm sure a lot of people in the audience gambled on football. Have you ever heard of the term Super Sick Monday?
Super Sick Monday? No.
Yeah. Well, that's the Monday right after the Super Bowl, right? That is the highest call-in day.
Oh, of course.
Because people are, hungover and sick and whatever from partying. Did you notice a decrease in office staff on Monday?
Everyone seemed to be there. Everyone's well behaved.
Everybody was there?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. We're not affected by that term. But it is the highest rate of calling, people going, "Oh, I'm sick. I got the flu." So, and I did see that you guys got all the remodeling done, which I know is a mess. I'm glad I didn't come in during I get like heart pains when I see everything ripped apart.
Oh, yeah.
You guys ripped walls out and all sorts of crap had done.
Took a whole wall out, yeah.
Yeah, should we show people kind of where Untold Radio and Hangar One Publishing? This is part of it. This isn't all of it, but this is just some of the areas they remodeled. Built-in desks and equipment and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, we don't want to play that, but that gives you an idea. There's Alex's office. Receptionist. Everybody's got new desks, new everything. It's kind of cool.
Looking pretty fresh.
And dead again. Right? New carpet, new everything.
Well, some new carpet.
Well, yeah, a lot of it, though.
Yeah, a lot of new carpet.
Looks beautiful. I will come in now that it's all done. All the dust is gone. I really can't. The only time I've ever had I felt like I was having a heart attack was on moving day when we moved into that building.
Oh, it must have been brutal.
It's just brutal because everything's on semi-trucks. There were like 32 semi-trucks and they're all lined up and they got all your life in it, from your work. And you just it's overwhelming, stressful. So
yeah, I mean, moving, as a person is stressful. Moving a company.
Yeah. And it's so much more stuff than you think. You think, oh yeah, it'll fit in a few semis. 32 semi-trucks full. And then you unload it, and then your life's in a real mess. So yeah, anyhow, so today was a beautiful day. Very much unlike Alaska, where our second guest is from. But so we've got Scott M, and Scott is basically the topic of a new documentary that's out. Well, it's not that new, sort of new. The Coastal Sasquatch. But Scott basically decided to build a cabin in the wilderness, in a very remote area. And I think the construction people started having problems, and Scott, and that's what this whole show's about. So we'll be doing that at the bottom quarter of the hour, like 7:45.
Yeah.
So we'll just see how it goes. And then we've got John Ayers is going to take us into salt mine and salt mining and all that. You've met John, I have not.
Oh, he's great.
He's always like has the best comments.
Yes.
I see him in chat often. He's always he's very witty. Very witty. Are you okay, Alex? Are you sure you're not the one that needed Super Sick Monday? Did you go to a Super Bowl party?
I think I got too many lights on me.
Oh, are you blinded?
I'm getting fried.
Turn one down. You're okay. Turn one down. You could probably get away with shutting one off. We don't care. We don't care if you look like you're on an Alaskan mountaintop, where the chroma key starts going crazy. Well, we don't care. So what else we got? Speaking of Alaska, they shot a UFO. They're calling it a UFO. Could be a balloon. Could be a spy thing. It could be anything. Who knows? But what's so weird about it is the general, the NORCOM general, will not say what it is. He's like, well, we're calling them objects for a reason.
What a bizarre thing.
And it's like, and he goes, I will not rule out aliens. I'm like, okay, come on. Give me a break. Come on. The Jets either saw this thing good, took video of it, or they didn't. So they know what it is, but why won't they say?
Didn't some of the news people they mentioned entities?
Oh yeah. The Alaskan governor did. Said it mentioned entities like 3 times. Like I saw the press conference and I'm like, what? What do you mean entities?
Yeah,
the whole thing was just confusing.
How are you supposed to interpret that?
I have no idea. But the fact today, there was still a new article, and it says basically on flying objects, U.S. general not ruling out aliens, the word aliens. And that's never been used by our military in public. Never. That's the first time in history the word alien has been used. This is also the first time in history anything's been shot down over the U.S., let alone Canada, let alone the Great Lakes. And Alaska is our first line of defense. And then that first object just cruised on through, and that looked like a balloon, of course, with a very mechanical satellite thing with solar panels. I mean, that was clear it was a man-made. So why are they not willing to say man-made object?
Yeah, why don't they just say
You don't
it?
need to identify it to say man-made.
It's a man-made object, or it's a bunch of balloons.
Yep. So basically, Dougie's confused. I don't know if Mr. Alex is, but Dougie is. Even though it's probably just balloons. So why are they gaslighting us?
Why are they being so cryptic?
Yeah, it's just gaslighting us. Is it for distraction? Or do we need to lock the doors tonight? You know what I mean? Maybe we do. I don't know.
I lock my doors.
Yeah, well, it's good.
So
enough of that crap. But it's just weird. I don't know. What do people think, man? Put something in the comment. I'm sure everybody's got a very, very different opinion. But they definitely have high-def gun cameras. There's no doubt. So they know what they're dealing with. And then they can't find some of them. Or any of them, except apparently the first one. So are we dealing with, the other weird thing is they detuned. They had the radar all detuned, right? So now apparently one guy, some nerd running the radar for the whole country went, oh, you want to see all these little things? Turned it on, and all of a sudden, oh my God, there's 4,000 objects in there.
So the whole thing just lit up, all the radar.
Yeah, of course, they had it detuned. Literally detuned.
So what do you do with all that noise?
So that particular nerd that decided to detune all the radar, Was he under orders by someone to detune it, or did he just take initiative to do it?
So are they
That's
all
the-
set up like that now? Like, can they all see?
Well,
the
no,
unused objects?
it was all one
Yeah.
apparently central control. So they're like, oh, now we can see them all. But yet now you've got naval pilots coming forward like crazy, like in the last week, doing podcast, and they're all going, oh, we see these UFOs every time we go up. They're everywhere. And no, they're not ruling out man-made, but they're kind of the other end of the spectrum. They're kind of like, well, we don't understand how an object can stay stationary in a 120 knot wind, and we can be gone for 5 hours and come back and it's still there, locked in place. And then it'll suddenly zip off or, whatever. So who knows? Maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe the skies are full of balloons and spy balloons and aliens, alien drones. Who knows?
So is there still a lot of activity, or is it died down in the last 24 hours?
I don't think anything's died down. I think they got yelled at for shooting down everything they saw. Simply because it would be endless. I mean, I think it would be endless. I've seen so many things that, like that, that size that are smaller.
You know what would be a really bad thing to do? It'd be a really bad thing to do right now. Get in a hot air balloon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you think that up just today?
You're going to get shot out of the sky.
Oh, my God. Well, the fact that NORAD's own commander isn't ruling out aliens is just, and says it, is shocking me.
Yeah, because they just try to put everyone at ease. Oh, it's just balloons. Don't worry about it.
Or it's man-made, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're not saying that.
That's what makes it so
So
weird.
what traits did they have that made them kind of go, maybe China's got some technology, or Russia, or... I mean, what made them just stop short of saying they're just man-made objects?
It's bizarre.
The whole thing is bizarre all these days later.
It puts you on edge.
No answers. Yeah, so everybody locked their doors tonight. Okay, enough of that crap. So since we're going deep into a salt mine with John Ayers, let's talk about salt. Dougie's boring salt facts.
No. This is interesting because I've never.
Nobody ever thinks, I'm going to get a whole bunch of weird facts on salt, because, damn it, there's a lot of weird things about salt. Tons of weird things. For instance, take a guess, Alex, at the most expensive salt that you could buy per pound.
Himalayan?
What do you think it would cost you? Just take a guess.
Himalayan?
Well, it's a form of Himalayan. There's a type of salt that's $398 a pound right now.
What? What is this called?
Well, I gotta look here. Hope I get fined.
Do I earn my dollar back?
Huh?
Lost $1, came in late.
Yep, and then you just won $1. Okay. So I will tell you the type of salt that's the most. I'm doing this kind of out of order. Well, I can't find. Do you want to know how many? I have 28 salt facts. I can't find that one. That's just something I remember. But back in the merchants of the 6th century traded salt literally for gold weight. Weight for, equal.
Well, yeah, try eating food without salt. You'll start.
Well, yeah, but it's got more. It does more things. It preserves food. It kills bacteria. It does a lot of cool things. Okay, so saltiness is a sense and is important for our human existence. Period. Salt is one of the oldest and most sought out food seasonings. Right. Salting is a very important method for food preservation. Talked about that. The first salt processing dates back 6,000 BC. So back 8,000 years, over 8,000 years, people have been mining salt. That's interesting. And whoever thinks about that, right?
Who would think of that?
You're not even paying attention.
I'm paying attention.
Oh, man, you're in rare form today. Okay. So, blah, 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 blah. Says there's more salt in there's more salt in animal tissue, such as meat, blood, and milk, than there is in plant tissue.
There's more in meat than in plants?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess you could word it that way. It's not what I said, but yeah, you could word it that way.
Close enough.
In Africa, salt was used as a currency south of the Sahara. It was their money.
It's not a bad currency.
I think we should go back to that.
It's got real value.
Yeah, I think we should go back to that. Let's carry around a bottle of salt, pour it in people's hands. Slabs of rock salt were used as coins. In Abyssinia. God knows where Abyssinia is. I don't want to visit there. And we talked about the merchants in the 6th century. Let's see here. I'm trying to look for anything interesting. Oh, the word salary comes from the Latin word for salt. So if you ask what's your salary, they're really saying what's your salt.
What's your salt?
Yep. And the word salad literally means salted. Salad, that's what it means. Salted.
It means salted.
Mm-hmm. Voyages from Christopher Columbus were financed from salt production in southern Spain.
So is salt still big business?
Well, we're going to find out from John Ayers. That's why we got him on. Yep. So during, remember when we were defying the British for taxes, and there was a big tax on salt. So they were apparently doing something with the seawater to get salt out of it to avoid paying the taxes. That did not make the British happy.
I wouldn't imagine.
No. Salt is mentioned many different times in the Bible. Many, many, many. You would think I would have researched how many times, but I didn't. I did it, Alex. I pulled it, Alex. Too much salt can cause issues to your health, such as headaches, water retention, blah, blah, blah. Okay? According to the USDA, about 60% of all raw meat and poultry products that you buy are injected with or soaked in salty solution. Look for the word enhanced on the package.
Does it help preserve them?
No. That just means that you're paying for salt. I mean, you're getting a higher salt content. So they injected it with salt.
They're just trying to cheapen their product?
Well, I think they're doing it to kind of kill the bacteria and preserve it. Probably makes it last longer. Doesn't go bad. It's bad. I'm just telling you.
Is that how they fatten them up too?
Cows?
No, no. Like you know the.
Are you okay? Oh my God. Okay. I'm not going to talk about. I'm done with salt now. Done. Totally done. Let's go to some brief clips.
Okay.
Very briefly. Then we're going to bring John on. I only have 5. I only put 5 in there because I know we had John coming on.
So it's the top 5.
We didn't want the clips cut into John.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll appreciate this. So it's top 5, and they're pretty good though. I think they're good. So clip. So we have a 3D printer at work, right?
Yeah, several.
So the number 1 world's biggest 3D printer is now building rockets. The metal 3D printer. And in this clip that I picked out, you can actually see it building rockets. And they've cut obviously the manufacturing down, adds about 10% more weight, but it uses aluminum. And of course, 3D printers are now they're using cement and aluminum.
Right.
We do plastics. We've done elastomers. I don't think we can print metal yet, but we probably will be soon. Absolutely. But anyhow, so here, go ahead and show clip 1. This is the world's biggest.
Is the world's largest 3D metal printer. It was built by Relativity Space, a startup that aims to print an entire rocket, including fuel tanks and rocket engines, in just 60 days.
Think about how rough that
surface
surface is.
To go in a volcano. Hold this up. Don't look at it. So that's the wire melting and the print head moving around.
The melting point of aluminum is 660 degrees Celsius. So the whole body of the rocket is effectively melted together one tiny bit at a time.
This actual thing is launching to space. That will go to space. This will go to space.
Think how rough
but it
that
still
is,
looks
Alex.
3D printed. Like you can still see the layers. Yeah, it only adds 5 to 10%
right,
of the mass with the rough.
Isn't that cool, though?
Yeah.
You would think it would add more mass than that, though, because when we print, we get those lines.
Yeah.
All this, so everybody knows, all 3D printers, if you haven't used one, have like either a plastic wire or a metal wire or an elastomer wire, whatever it is. And that wire kind of melts and right at the tip. And then it starts building it up. But what's cool about 3D printers, man, you can do shapes inside of shapes. There's really no limit to it. They're building homes with it now.
Yeah.
Homes.
Yeah, I've seen the clips where
Yeah.
it's like laying cement.
Yeah, it's pretty much, it squirts it out. All right, enough of that. Clip 2. So you know how robots are really, they're kind of creepy. I think they are. They just are. But can you imagine a robot that can walk and not fall over? But how about one now they're building now? It not only walks, but it flies. What could go wrong? What possibly could go wrong?
Sounds like Terminator 12.
Yeah, with a robot that can walk and fly. All right, go ahead and play clip 2.
This is a robot that walks, flies, skateboards, and slacklines. But why? There are lots of bipedal robots out there, and drones are ubiquitous. But until now, no one had engineered walking and flying technology to work together in a single robot.
It's a Leonardo, and it stands for Legs Onboard Drone. So I think
doesn't it creep you out, Alex?
Why is this potentially useful?
Yeah, so any flying vehicles actually have to start from the ground to take off. And
imagine
eventually,
nothing tiptoeing to you down the hallway.
They have to eventually come down.
Yeah, this is why I'm
But
locking
sometimes
my
they
doors.
have to come down.
And all of a sudden it
very
lifts
challenging
off.
terrain.
I gotta lock my doors and keep my windows
so
shut.
it's a good
Insect-like.
idea to have these controllable
It's basically a
lands. They
grasshopper.
can actually land in a very interesting configuration of
Enough of that.
posture or orientation.
Creepy, 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 creepy. Okay, clip 3. So this is basically on an oil rig. It's an out of a good, they drill and they suck mud and they do all this. Well, this is a mud jack that's gone completely haywire on a floating oil platform. And I want you to, boy, well, that was weird. Your camera froze right when you were going to blow your nose.
Oh no. Did my dog?
It was just funny looking. Anyhow, so this, I just want you to picture this clip. Some guy sitting on the toilet scrolling through TikTok, but he's sitting on just picture him sitting on the toilet, and then this clip plays. Clip 3. It's mud on the bottom of the ocean. They don't know what to think. Okay, that's plenty. Oh, okay, shut her down. Picture the guy sitting on the toilet just scrolling, and he sees that. Kind of weird. Anyhow, I think you got my joke, right?
Yeah, it's me after Taco Bell.
Yeah, or you took an eating Taco Bell, and he's, yeah, never mind. Went right over Alex's head today. Clip 4 is just a standard weird animal clip. I'll even tell you what it is at a time. It is a cone ray. But what I found was so funny is it looks like a little man opening and closing his raincoat. That's what it looks like. Like a flasher.
Yeah.
Yep.
Put it up.
Well, yeah. Show it. So it kind of looks like an octopus, but it doesn't have tentacles.
Yeah, that's weird.
opens and closes his little coat.
It's like a bat octopus.
Yeah, like a bat, like a vampire opens his cape.
Yeah.
That's how he somehow got that was a good way to propel him.
It doesn't seem very fast.
No, I'm glad I didn't get, glad I'm not a fish and got stuck with that system. Okay. Last clip is really cool because we're going to play the audio. And I'm going to try to explain this. So people, I'm sure some of you have seen this kind of illusion and some haven't, but it's an audio illusion. So before we play it, what you're going to want to do, you're going to see like 10 things listed, phrases. Pick any one of those phrases. They're all very different and just keep reading it. Read it to the sounds that you're going to hear this singing, and you will hear exactly what you're reading. And then switch to a different phrase. And once again, you'll hear exactly what you're reading. So no matter what you read, you're going to hear them backing it up. Do you understand, Alex?
Yeah. Yep.
Have you ever done this before?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, you'll find this very interesting, but it shows the power of suggestion big time. So let's go ahead and put it up.
Are you ready?
Play it loud. Everybody can.
That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing.
So pick a phrase.
That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing.
And then switch it up.
That is embarrassing. 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 That is embarrassing.
So everybody pick the top one. Bart Simpson bouncing.
That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing.
Okay, that's probably enough. I think everybody got the. Did it work for you?
Yeah, it did.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, there's something really bizarre about that.
Yep. So that should teach everybody something if they've never done that. Just let you know, your brain, it has to make sense of things. So you read that phrase and it just gives you that little suggestion, and that's what you hear. Yep. God knows what they're really saying. That British, sounds like a British band or British singers. God knows what they're really saying. I don't want to know. Anyhow, so is John ready to?
I just messaged him right now. I think he's actually in the chat right now.
Oh, sure. The one day I have, if I can, okay, let me just stop my cam here. I'll be right back. Hold on.
Okay. So, hey, John, if you can hear me, if you want to jump in, Doug's going to be right back. So it's just me. This is awkward. Do any of you guys have any questions about salt mines? What have you?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Anyhow, so if John's not in, we could always bring John at the end of the show too.
Let me see.
We can get. I don't know if Scott's around yet.
Yeah, if you're cool, I'm gonna go on mute. I'll call John.
Sure.
Got his number. One second.
Oh, hey, Alex, do you want to run that super chat promo?
Yeah, sure. Right
So let me announce what's going to happen here. We're going to YouTube has promoted all of the Untold Radio Network to super chat. It's just a non-committal. As we grow, if you have a question and you want to pay a couple of bucks or donate it, you can do it through Super Chat. Nobody's obligated to do it. We're not even asking, but go ahead and play that promo.
Show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
All right, so he's jumping on.
Oh, okay. So people might be confused on Super Chat. Doesn't affect anything. You don't have to do a damn thing. But if you want to buy us a cup of coffee, you can.
Buy this man a cup of coffee.
Mm.
You got me a donut.
Yeah, I did get you a donut, didn't I? How was it, by the way?
It was incredible.
That was actually from a really old bakery. It's been around since like 1980. I've been going there since 1980.
What's it called? Like Grandma's?
Grandma's. Yeah, I've actually been going there that long. It's scary. And there's not one thing's changed in there.
So it looks exactly how it did.
It did, yes. They have not done one thing. I don't even know if they've cleaned. No, they keep it clean, but nothing's been remodeled. That's for damn sure.
Can you eat in there?
Yeah, they have like some mini sandwiches, but so I ordered a little like tiny ham and cheese sandwich, and then a big, huge apple fritter or apple turnover. It was delicious. Amazing.
Yeah, some of those old restaurants, they've got a lot of character. But there's this one place, I forget what it was. It's like they have these incredible pancakes, but they haven't renovated the place since you could smoke indoors. And like,
are you talking about Pannekuchen? Was it Pannekuchen?
Maybe.
What's
I don't
the
know.
name
It's a
of
place in Anoka. Is it Sparky's? Have you been there?
No, I've never been to Sparky's. Nope. So when's John coming on?
He's coming in right now.
Oh yeah, come on, John.
John, we need you.
Oh,
if you're cool, because he sent some videos over. I could.
Yeah, let's play a video. Absolutely. So this is where I believe he works. But this guy goes miles underground every day. Could you imagine that, going to work and having to go underground? I couldn't.
I couldn't do that.
400 million years ago, a shallow sea covered most of New York State. You wouldn't know it today.
Let's click our cameras up so we get a little bigger for
rolling
people.
hills of cornfields and dairy farms, down 1,200 feet to where the telltale evidence of that sea can be found in abundance.
During the late 1800s, when oil was first being discovered in Pennsylvania, they kept drilling further and further north from Pennsylvania up to New York, and they kept hitting the same salt seam. As they progressed further north, the salt seam got thicker, the quality was high enough, and they started mining it for preservatives, for tanning hides, and for refrigeration. American rock salt was established in 1997. They began sinking the shafts in 1998 and were completed in 2001. Since that time, we have been one of the largest producing underground salt mines in the United States.
Rock salt is an essential material to the ground transportation system in the northeastern U.S., allowing people and materials to keep moving.
So
Scott's in the back room. If we want to just jump to that,
let's jump to Scott. What is John standing us up?
I don't know what happened. He got back to me. Something maybe came up.
Okay, well we'll just bring him on just whenever he comes in.
Yeah,
we'll bring him on later.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, boys.
Scott, where are you? You're in Alaska, right?
Yeah, I sure am.
Yep, but you're probably near, I would imagine, Anchorage.
I'm about 50 miles north of Anchorage.
Oh, cool.
Yep. Los Anchorage, as we call it, in the valley. So
I would imagine now the days are getting longer, right?
Yeah,
correct.
In fact, so today I woke up, it was 5 degrees this morning, and then I took I was out snowshoeing about 30 minutes ago, and I'm not saying that because I'm like an Alaskan trying to play Alaska stuff, but I took my little girl out my little Jack Russell snowshoeing, and it was 27 degrees basically. So we're getting, the sun is actually making a difference right now.
Right. Yeah. So at what point will it be 24 hours a day?
June 21st is the solstice.
Okay.
So we have the winter solstice, which is December 21st.
Yep.
And we get down here where I live. It's about, it's probably, the sun is, so, okay, we have sunrise and sunset, right? And then we have the official sunrise and sunset, but we have as the sun is coming up, we have, the twilight and the twilight dawn, or whatever you want to call it. But so we get like another hour and a half or 2 hours, something like that, of daylight prior to the sun actually coming up. So it's a really long, in the way it works. I mean, I'm in the garage right now, and if I look out that way in the summertime, the sun comes up. It's a really low angle, but it comes all the way around me,
right,
and then barely goes down, and then it comes back up again during the summer solstice, of course. So
it circles.
Yep, exactly.
The sun circles. See, I've been up to the Arctic a bunch of times, and I remember one time it was like 2 in the morning. We're playing golf out on the tundra. You can't sleep.
Where were you at?
Let's see. Where was I? I was at Knowlton Lake when we were first playing golf.
Yep.
First trip to the Arctic.
Yep.
Which is right at the 60th parallel.
Okay.
Right on the edge.
We are north. Let me see here. West 150. I'm trying to think of when my first officer initializes the flight management system. I'm trying to think of the north. It's north. I think we're north 60, somewhere around there.
Yeah. You should be in that area. So, do you want to tell people, roughly what you want to tell them? I didn't want to introduce you because I don't want to overstep my bounds, but I'd rather have you just tell people what they need to know.
I'm trying to get my freaking hat straight. Okay.
Your hat looks beautiful.
It's like crazy crooked. Are you talking about me?
Yeah, we're laughing at you, Scott. We're laughing at you, Scott.
This whole night has been a bit of a mess, so don't even worry about it.
It's good, Scott. Leave it right there. Okay, don't touch it. It's perfect.
Okay, so you want me to talk about what I do?
Well, whatever you want. Yeah, you tell us as much as you want.
As much as you're comfortable.
747 captain for a company.
So everybody heard that. This guy is a 747 captain.
I'm not a good one. Howard.
No, what you don't want to do is be flying with Scott when he's adjusting his hat.
No, how the hell can I not get that freaking thing straight?
It's the angle of the camera. It's a wide angle lens. It's distorted.
How big is it? How big is that airplane?
My hat?
No, the airplane.
Okay, the airplane is okay, hold on. Stop, boys. Don't talk. I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, I think I got it. Hey, look at that.
Perfect.
Anyway, the airplane is 975,500 pounds, that max gross weight. And when I take off out of Asia, coming back to the States, I'm literally sitting at the end of the runway, holding the brakes, setting and trying to burn off fuel so that I'm legal by the FAA. Because once I take the runway and I set takeoff thrust, everything is recorded and it's sent to the FAA. And guess what? I can get violated, right? So, but 975,500 pounds is our max takeoff weight. Max landing weight is 763,000 pounds, which I've had to do S-turns coming into Anchorage because we're so freaking heavy. And it's funny because I sort of coined this phrase. I had Anchorage Center, or Anchorage Approach. I was talking to them, and I said, "Hey, I'm really heavy. I need to burn some fuel for landing. I need to do some S-turns." He says, "Roger, UPS 81, which is our Shanghai flight." He says, "Roger, UPS 81, you're approved for S-turns." And I said, "I'd like to do uppercase S's, if that's okay." And he's like, "No problem." Anyway, it was kind of cool.
Gosh. You wanted to do some big S's.
Yes, absolutely.
So what would be a problem if you landed with too much weight? What would it do?
The FAA.
They would get mad.
Seriously. It's the FAA. That's the big.
Okay.
I mean, because when I brief a takeoff, the takeoff briefing says we'll reject for anything below V1 max. If we have a master caution, master warning, the aircraft's not flyable, we see a loss of performance, and then I always brief that if we have an engine failure, we'll go out, we'll burn fuel, we'll come back around and land. Not a big deal, right? But I said I would tell my first officers, if we are on fire, we're going to land overweight. We don't care. And we're going to that's just the way it's going to work. We're going to land overweight. And I don't really give a shit about. I'm sorry about that, Alex.
No, you're good.
I don't care about landing overweight if we're on fire, because I've had one fire indication on an airplane, and we went out and dumped 90,000 pounds of fuel, I think, and then landed back in Hong Kong. So, anyway.
So, and I've known you quite a while, Scott.
2.5 years, buddy. I was looking at it today.
Yeah, 2.5 years. That sounds good. And we've communicated quite a bit. Jeff, I immediately wanted to ask a question to put you in a awkward position. Have you ever seen alien weather balloons?
Okay. So, I have never seen a weather balloon. Okay, so
worded correctly.
I know. I'm trying to construct my thoughts. Right.
It's okay. Stop, Scott. I once asked the head of the Space Command, "Are there such a thing as UFOs?" Just ask him. He goes, "Doug, there are no UFOs." He was totally in compliance.
Emphasis on the U?
Yes.
Okay, so I have had two experiences. So one of them was, I did 16 years active duty Army. I was an Army pilot. I flew helicopters. All Army pilots are helicopter pilots. There's no getting around it, okay? So some of the branches, if you're a helicopter pilot, means that you were at the bottom of the food chain in terms of training where you finished up. So, but with the Army, everybody's a helicopter pilot. If you get lucky, you get fixed wing, which is what I did. But I was a helicopter pilot. I was deployed, one of my many deployments, to Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And I had built, because I build stuff, right? I had built a set of stairs going to the top of our roof. We had a hard stand building. And we had lawn chairs up there, shade lounges, all that stuff. And I was up there with a friend of mine, and I was looking at this guy laying in the shade lounge, and my buddy had his eyes closed apparently. But I looked up and I said, Dan, do you see that? Because I saw something go across the sky. I mean, like, I don't know, satellite size, maybe bigger than that, but it went across the sky. It made a 90-degree turn, went across the sky again, and then made another 90-degree turn and went in the other direction. And I thought it was odd, and I was like, Dan, did you see that? He goes, no, I didn't. And then I started telling him about it. He's like, oh, you don't know what you're seeing, yada, yada. Well, he ended up, now his eyes are open, and we're both laying in shade lounges. He ended up looking up and seeing the same thing. We saw the same thing coming in the opposite direction. And it was pretty bizarre. And then the only incident I had as a wide body transport pilot is we used to have the trip that would leave Anchorage. You would go to Anchorage to Hong Kong, and then you would spend a week doing Hong Kong to Clark, which is in the Philippines. Yeah. So that used to be one of our major hubs for my company. So we'd go to Clark and come back. And it was great because I was learning the airplane that I was on at the time, which is the MB-11, which I miss. I love that airplane. But anyway, I was with the captain, and it's a non-radar environment, and you would enter holding. So you do a holding pattern, and then they would release you for the approach, right? And I think we made the first turn into the holding, and we were on the straightaway. So normally a holding's like 2 minutes, like outbound leg, 2 minutes, and then you make the inbound leg. And whatever went over us, I saw 3 lights. And so we're in a right-hand turn as a standard holding in U.S. And, if you go to Europe, it's like left-hand turns. But anyway, standard holdings, right-hand turns, 2 minute cycle. So we went into that right-hand turn, and this thing was so close that the captain, who was in the left seat, okay, the airplane's pitched to the left, right?
Yeah.
He threw his body onto the center console because he thought we were going to hit it. And I had no freaking idea what the hell it was. And we talked about it, and we thought, did we hit something? And we actually did a post flight, which, we don't do. We don't do a post flight. The mechanics do the post flight normally. So we landed in Clark, and we queered. And the whole time I'm querying, approach control, which is non-radar. I'm querying the tower, and they're saying no other traffic, no other reported traffic, no. And but it was kind of freaky. So I can't say what I saw. I really don't. I know that it had 3 white lights.
Yeah, so it was unidentified.
But it was so freaking close that the captain threw his body on the center console.
Jeez. That's crazy. Yeah. Scott, can you move your mic a little up, or just so we can get a little more of it?
Right there.
Yes. You can hold it too. A lot of people do.
I'm not going to hold it. My beard's not going to hold it. So
no, you can hold it.
I'll do my best. Okay.
Yeah, just hold it a little bit so we get a little more volume out of you.
All right.
I hate those hanging mics. And people have to understand, we have a lot of really big cross-section of people that come on Untold Radio. They don't always have USB mics. I wish they did, but they don't.
I had a cordless wireless noise canceling one, but Alice.
No, that's fine. Just hold it a little bit.
Oh, it's my fault.
Rate in the speed bag, Alex. Rate in the speed bag.
Okay, so we've established that. Let's go ahead, and we know who you are. So you set out to build a very remote cabin up in the Kenai Peninsula on the ocean. What in the world? I mean, why did you want to build it, and what happened?
Okay, it started out, I had initially started as wanting to build a moose camp so we could hunt moose, right? I wanted some place that was on a slope. I shoot ultra long range. I don't know if you can see this baby right here.
Okay.
That's a 338 Lapua. But I shoot ultra long range, so I shoot a 1/2-inch group at 1,500 yards, which is a 7-inch group at 1,500. And I wanted to have a place that was on a hillside where I could blaze a trail or blaze an opening, and if a moose came across, then we would have that opportunity, right? But anyway, so I went to look at this property that was close by where I live, and it was a 20-acre plot, and it was very inexpensive considering. And I went and looked at it, and the great thing was, it had trail access. The bad thing is it had trail access because it was like Redneck Rampage. Okay, ATVs going up and down the trail, and I saw burnout cars. This is Alaska; it's pristine, but we do have that group of people that do things that you and I would not necessarily accept. So I came back from looking at the property, and my wife asked how it looked, and I said it looked great, but this is why it's bad. And she said, well, you should look for an ocean property. And I said, there's never anything available. There's never. And I went onto this website that I used, and this property had shown up. But it's at a time of year when nobody is looking for ocean. People don't. If you don't have a substantial boat, you're not getting out there, right?
Yeah.
And especially as we progress from September through any month that ends with R, the sea starts standing up. I mean, I've looked at going out there to my property last year in like November, December timeframe or something like that. I was in Hong Kong or whatever, and the seas were 22 foot, and I'm not doing it. So anyway, but we ended up going out there. We went out there October 5th of that year, bucked through 10, 12 foot seas, got out to the property. We loved it. When we got into my bay where I'm at, it wasn't even like a lake. It was like a pond. It was so flat. It was so calm. It was unbelievable. After we were bucking through 10, 12 foot seas and seeing that, I go, this is it. So we ended up buying the property, and and everything else beyond that was not on my radar. I mean, I had no freaking idea, Doug. I really did.
So you buy the property, and how long do you own the property before you decide to develop it?
So I bought it in October 20, I think it was 2018. And then we started building, and the first trip out was April of 2019.
Okay, so you're building the property. I would imagine you're doing some of the work yourself. You're hiring
Everything.
construction, but you're the
Everything.
what do they call that? You're the contractor.
Yes.
And
So I went
what,
to school for. I grew up in New England. I went to a school that the first 2 years it was a technical vocational high school. The first 2 years were cabinet making, architectural millwork, and then the second 2 years were residential construction.
Okay.
So I knew how to build.
So what happened though? I mean, what's
Okay,
kind
so
of
the
one of the first
trip,
weird things?
Literally, it was the first trip. What the hell was that, Alex? What did you do?
What did you do, Alex?
Scott, is that you?
No.
Scott.
Come on.
Not me.
I'm not. I was like, what the hell? You guys heard that too?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, and it literally started. Everything started the first trip of that year, and
Move your phone again. Put it back where it was. It's causing interference. Your phone is.
Testes.
Just move your phone a little bit away here,
All
or
right.
whatever you touched. You move something.
It was my phone. for
Oh,
God's
okay.
sakes.
Okay.
So
anyhow.
the first trip of the year was, I think it was April or May of 2019, and I took a friend of mine out.
Can I interrupt? Can I just ask you one question, Scott?
Send it.
So I'm just curious. So like you get this land, you do development. Before anything happened, anything strange, what did you think of the idea of like a Bigfoot existing?
I had no freaking idea. It was not
like
it
you
really
never
was
gave it
not-
any consideration.
No.
It was just like
No.
okay,
No,
so that's
it was
where
not even
that's
a
the
thought.
starting
It
place,
wasn't a
right?
thought. I mean, it was like the thing that crazy people think about. It really was.
So you're
It was
just like
not-
whatever.
and-
This is
and I don't even know
not
if it
for
was
me.
something. I don't know, Alex, that it was something that I thought crazy people think about. I think that it was one of these things that, it could be real, it could be not, but I didn't really pay attention
didn't give it
to
any
it because I've been out in
consideration.
the woods. I hunt,
Right.
I fish, I trap. I did that since I was 13 years old and never heard anything, never saw anything. So
you were never
I don't-
worried about this stuff.
no,
Never had a care in
absolutely
the
not.
world.
Why the
never
hell would
just
I?
Put it on
Why
your
would
mind.
I? Right? I go out in the woods. I don't hear anything. I don't see anything. I don't have to. Why would I worry about it? Right?
So that's where you were at when you bought this land and started
Yes.
doing development.
And then things changed, like in a freaking hurry.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. So the first trip out, getting back to Doug's question, the first trip out, it was me and a friend of mine, Lou, and Lou would be a good person for you guys to talk to. But so Lou and I went out there, and we had a slow trip heading out there because we're dragging a skiff behind the boat, and we have the skiff loaded with material, and I'm only doing like 8 knots. My boat, normally we steam along at about 31, 32 knots, something like that. And the cabin is about 28 nautical miles from the nearest town. So we steam out, and we get to the cabin, like I said, fairly late in the day because we're going slow. So from my house to get to Seward is about 3 hours, and then we're talking about normally, if I'm not pulling a skiff, it's like an hour boat ride, but now we have a 3-hour boat ride. So it's literally 6 hours into the day. We get out to the cabin, and the first thing we did was set the mooring buoy.
Yeah.
Which, if people don't know what that is, it's a big anchor that hangs on the bottom of the ocean that has a big buoy attached to the top that's offshore that is not affected by the tide. And you tie off to that. And then we had the skiff, of course, where we can go from the mooring buoy and the big boat, which is tied off to the mooring buoy, back to shore. So we go out, tie off to the mooring buoy, or we set the mooring buoy. And I said, okay, the first thing I wanted to do was find the rear property markers. But that really didn't matter because I knew where the front property markers were because we found those when we had initially looked at the property. And the rear ones really didn't make a difference to me because we the cabin's going to be close to the ocean. We didn't care about the back one. So we went and looked for the back property markers, never did find, but we did find that the cabin, or the behind the cabin, there were deer trails, which they're black-tailed deer, and they shouldn't be there. They should be 60 miles away, roughly, from where they're at in Prince William Sound. But we found deer antler sheds, so we knew that they were absolutely black-tailed deer. So we finished up for the end of we finished up that first day, set the mooring, looked for the property markers, came back, went to the big boat, took the skiff out to the big boat, slept on the big boat, and then the next morning we knew about where the cabin was going to sit, so we went ashore, and what we're going to do is blaze a trail from, I have the only beach in this bay, from the beach up to where the cabin build site was. And anyway, we'd been running saws for about an hour and a half, and we stopped running the saws, and we went down. It's probably been an hour and a half since we got there. We went down to the beach, put the saws down. I'm working on the saws, and it wasn't a couple of minutes. I mean, I don't think it was even that long. It really wasn't. We heard our first howl, and my buddy Lou, who was with me, said, "What was that?" I said, "Lou, I have no freaking idea." I didn't use those words, Alex, but you know the words I would use, right?
Yeah, the bad ones.
So I can't help it. I'm a asshole. I can't help it. So anyway, so we heard this howl, and then within, I don't think it was 30 seconds, let's say 30 seconds to a minute and 10 seconds at the most. I don't know what that window was exactly, because you're so you're like, what the hell was that? And then
did you try to dismiss it at first, like, oh, that's a coyote or a wolf or whatever?
I said, no, but we're both armed. I'm carrying a 50 cal. And
so you have guns.
I have a 50 cal strapped to the front of me, and Lou has a 40, I think. So we're like, no big deal. We're both well, Lou is a Puerto Rican from New York, okay? So he's on a different level, because he's not an outdoorsman, but he is. You know, he's trying to be an outdoorsman, and he's awesome. But he doesn't have the experience outdoors that I do. And so anyway, you know, and then that 30 seconds to a minute and 10, whatever it was, this thing moves 100 yards closer to us, at least, and then it howls again. And Lou says, "Dude, that's unreal." And the first thing I said to him was, and I don't remember saying it to him. I think he told me later. He said, "They're coming." I said, "They're coming," and I don't know why. What made my brain go, "It's more than one to begin with," but I said, "They're coming," and then we just like kept working our saws.
That's kind of a weird. Let's back up. I mean, what did you mean by that?
I don't know, Doug.
Honestly. They're coming.
I know.
Who is
said
there?
They are coming. I said,
God,
literally, I said they are coming, and it's the way my brain processes it. I don't freaking know exactly. It's one of those things that
that's a not one.
You can do something under stress. So there's abnormal and normal responses to stress, right?
Yeah.
And I think that probably was a normal response to stress, but I have no idea what it was. Honestly, I have no idea what that response was and how it worked and how I should have, you know.
And can you mimic a bit what you heard? Try to mimic it a bit so we have a rough idea.
The long distance howl from Daryl Ellis, right? Or David Ellis.
Yeah, and we can play.
That is what we heard.
Okay, we can play it. Let's kind of do this because I want to enjoy this.
Yeah.
Story
well, we got a long road to go, buddy.
Oh, I know.
So it looks like there was a bunch of clips, 6 of them that David sent over. I'll just kind of go through the titles and maybe.
It's the long,
the long
distance howl. That's what we heard.
Long distance howl.
And this was, I sent this recording to a guy by the name of, I'll not use his last name. His first name is Todd. He's a leading biologist for the state of Alaska for wolves. Oh, okay. And he said it's not a wolf. And David Ellis has compared them to the Macaulay Library sounds, and it says it's nothing that nobody knows. So.
Okay, so I'm gonna play it now.
Yeah.
Nice and eerie.
That's pretty quiet.
Yeah, it is very unlike a wolf.
That is very quiet compared to what we. Well, so my little bay is like an amphitheater, right?
So it was really loud when you heard it.
It's crazy loud. I mean, you couldn't.
Okay.
And if you in that recording that you're playing right now does it no justice. I mean, because if I listen to it on my phone, the recording that David Ellis sent me is far louder than what you have. But and that recording was also sent from a guy that's in Alaska. That's a Bigfoot guy, right? Because I started researching and trying to figure out people that I need to be associated with. Doug, you barely made the cut, but you did. So anyway, but this guy had sent that same audio down to a zoo. I don't want to call it a zoo. It's something like a zoo, but they do white-cheeked gibbon. They have it's like a farm for white-cheeked gibbons.
Okay.
And the lady, he sent it to them, and the lady said, "Oh, that's a white-cheeked gibbon. That's a howler monkey." And he goes, "No, it's recorded in Alaska." And she's like, "There's no way. There's absolutely no way." And he goes, "No, I'm telling you, it was recorded in Alaska." So, anyway, so we have the leading biologist for the state of Alaska saying it's not a wolf. We have David Ellis looking at that stuff and comparing it to the vocabulary sound, saying it's not anything that they can identify. Right. And then we have, the lady from the zoo or whatever you call it, saying that it was a gibbon, and it's not, and obviously it's not. So, and you listen to the crescendo, and if you listen to it if you look at the breakdown that David Ellis does, and you can see the split in the spectrograph, because there's more than one, especially towards when it goes into its crescendo, it sort of spreads out. Like, it's like more than one sound wave. You know what I mean? But you'd have to talk to David about that, because he's far smarter than I am on the sound.
I see David's in chat too, so he'll be putting up some comments.
And tell us, come on, talk to us, dude.
Yeah, so we'll throw up his comments.
Yeah,
as you talk. Okay, so you hear this thing. So, did you hear it again? On that explore?
2 times, right?
Okay,
two times, and then my buddy Lou, who is behind me, we were within maybe 10 minutes of when we heard the second howl. He's behind me. Now, this guy is not a stupid guy. He's an engineer, okay? He's one of our pilots, also a 747 captain. He picks up to grab his saw, and I say he's not a stupid guy because this thing freaked him out to the point where he put his chainsaw blade on backwards, and he couldn't figure out why it wouldn't cut. But anyway, he picks up his saw, turns around to walk in to start finishing up the trail as we're working, and I saw, and I can't say with exact, I can't say with any distinct or perfect measurements, but I saw the flight of a rock that I saw the last 15 to 25, maybe 30 feet of its flight as it was traveling in, there was a howl. Let me back up. So we heard the two howls, and then we heard a roar. And the roar was epic. And then it was after that, we're walking up back to continue finishing up the trail. And Lou had turned around, picked up his saw. He's walking into the woods. And I had just picked up my saw, and I'm looking out at my big boat. Okay, so I have my big boat. My skiff is against the shore. And I saw the flight of a rock that was the size of a football. Okay, so it's probably that big. And I saw maybe 15 to 25, maybe 30 feet of its flight before it impacted the water. And it hit the water, and Lou spins around. And he's like, what the hell was that? And I said, Lou, it was a rock. It was a big rock. I couldn't throw that rock 20 feet, I don't think. And unless somebody had a trebuchet out there, which a trebuchet makes a hell of a lot of noise, right? So anyway, so we had that. And then while we were cutting on that trail or working on that trail later after we're still discounting things. How the hell do you do that, right? So we're working, and Lou walks up to me. He goes, "Hey, did you hear the whistles?" And I said, "No." He goes, "I've heard it twice now." And my hearing is pretty screwed up. I flew helicopters. I was an M60 machine gun in the Army. So my hearing is not great. I never heard the whistles. But at the end of the day, we went out to the point. If anybody sees the videos that Small Town Monster did, I have my pier or my point out there, and then I have my dock that I put up. And he and I were sitting right there on that point.
And we're gonna play some of that. So,
okay.
At what point, Scott, would you like to play some of that to kind of give people a gist of
throttle back? Right, I should throttle back. Doug, you know me, I'm a freaking.
Well, no, it's fine. Maybe we should let's do this. Let's play the trailer, Alex.
Okay, I'm gonna have a coffee.
Okay. Yeah, grab a coffee. So we're gonna play the trailer real quick. It's like 1 minute long, and then later we'll play a clip from the actual doc. The doc was filmed by Alexander Pedikov.
Yeah, Pedikov. Yeah.
And he filmed it. I think narrated it, directed it. I know Eli Watson was out there, who I know
did a great job. I mean, the biggest thing for me is that for both of you guys and for anybody listening is that they didn't take everything. Everything was not a Bigfoot. You know what I mean? Which is because I'm still an agnostic. I should be the one guy that's like, these things are real, but I can't. I'm not at that point. Until
you're. Until you see one, then that's the way you have
it's
to.
It's just the way I'm built. I can't. I can't do it. So anyway, go ahead.
Go ahead and play it, Alex. So that at least shows people the area.
Yeah.
At the very least, and then we'll get actually into play some of the doc. But it is definitely in one of the most beautiful places on the planet. No doubt.
Yeah.
Very remote. Certainly very remote. So you've now you've already seen a rock. You've only been there. How much time has elapsed? 15 minutes?
Okay, so from the time we hear the first howl until the rock throw was, maybe 20 or 30 minutes at the top. I mean, think about it. Because I wasn't sharpening chainsaws. I was actually changing the saw blade. You know what I mean? So it takes a little more time. Maybe a little more time than sharpening.
And just so you know, Alex, David sent you a gibbon recording.
Okay.
He did the white sheet gibbon howl, and it could be compared. So we'll do that in a little bit. But let's just keep going here with your story.
Okay, so we're sitting on that point where I had ended up putting the dock, right? It was just Lou and I, and we heard on the top of the hill it was just one time. It sounded like a hollow baseball bat hitting a tree. It sounded like, and it becomes an important part of the story because
so you've got wood knock, rock throwing, screaming,
these are
roaring.
I don't know about, Doug. I mean, I don't know shit about this stuff. I swear to God, this is not my thing, right? But I start researching, and I because the rock throw is what really pushed me over the edge to make me go, hey, I should probably. Well, that's the front side of the story. There's a backstory to that, and I'll get to that. But anyway, the hollow baseball bat, it becomes important because we had so we're sleeping on the boat. The boat sleeps 5 guys, 6 guys, right? And while we're building this cabin, we don't have a cabin to sleep in, and nobody wants to sleep on shore because of bears, right? But so we would go to the boat, and I started betting people money. I go, within 5 or 10 minutes, we're going to hear a hollow baseball bat on that hill, and then within 5 seconds on that hill. And these hills are, one of them's probably, well, Alex has been up on top of one of them at least, or actually both of them, but they're pretty far apart. But it's amazing that, the stuff that we have, it became predictable, right? And then talking to another group, the NAWAC, and they said, yeah, that's pretty normal. We hear when people drive out of our area or drive in, they have the hollow baseball bats, and it's like a signal. And I don't know that I know what it is real, what we heard. I just don't know what it is. So we heard the hollow baseball bats, and then we're steaming. So at the end of the day, we jump in the skiff, head out to the mooring, tie off to the mooring, get on the big boat, and we start steaming into the town local port town close to my cabin, Seward. And we get where I have cell phone range, and I call a buddy of mine who he's become a friend of mine. He's my transporter. He's the guy that's hauled out all the building materials. And I called him up, and I said, because I knew that he had taken a group of guys out to that property to look at it about 3 weeks before I actually bought it. And I called him up. I said, his name. I said, when you picked those guys up, were they scared? He goes, yeah, as a matter of fact, they were. I said, why? And he told me that they had something circling. And these guys are from Georgia, by the way. So that changes my perspective on what is fearful for them as opposed to an Alaskan, right? So he says that they heard something circling their tents every night. And I could see still today, I could see their tent sites, because they had built like 5 or 6 different little beds where they built the tent sites, and they built a fire pit. And whatever it was circling their camps, and one of them got frustrated or tired of hearing it, and he unzipped his tent, and something ran off, and he said it sounded like a bulldozer going off through the trees. And now a bear could do that, right? So it was not really a big thing for me. And Joe said, why do you ask? This guy, my transporter. And I said, we had the weirdest sounds, and we saw a giant rock get thrown in the water. And the first thing out of Joe's mouth was, oh, you mean like Sasquatch? And I said, Joe, why would you say that? Well, he was the transporter for the production crew for Les Stroud. And Les Stroud did a Survivor Man in Alaska, and he left Seward. I'm not going to say exactly where he left Seward, but Joe took him out. They put him in his kayak. They got a bunch of stock footage of him paddling in front of the glacier and stuff like that. And then they left for a week or 5 days, whatever it is they do with him. And when they picked him up, Joe said he looked like he hadn't slept. And the first thing that he said to Joe was, what are your thoughts on the possibility of the existence of a Sasquatch? And Joe said, I don't know, maybe, yada, yada. And then Les talked about what happened to him. And he said, I had what I can only describe as a great ape circling my camp, making ape sounds. And Les is like, I know what a freaking moose sounds like. Les grew up in like Yukon or British Columbia. He lived off the grid in one of those places for 2 years, I think. But he said it could only be described. He goes, it was an ape. It was making ape noises. And if you listen to one of the recordings, you can find it online. And I'm not going to demonstrate the sounds he makes, but it's an ape, absolutely an ape.
Yeah, I mean, Les heard noises that sounded very gorilla-like, and then he saw the trees moving.
Yep.
The trees were
I think
shaking.
he heard the trees breaking is what he heard.
Yeah, breaking
But
and moving and shaking.
But
Yep.
the noise was like, whoo, whoo, whoo. I mean, it was not
Yeah.
something that a moose would do or a bear.
No,
You know,
it's
moose grunt and bears don't make shit for noise. So
it's not an Alaskan animal.
nope, not at all.
So, okay. So you're getting confirmation. At least you're not crazy on what you heard.
Well, so at this point, Doug, this is not my thing still, right? But now that I have somebody saying that, hey, there's the possibility of this stuff, I started looking into it. And that's at some point, I think it was a year or two when I reached out to you.
Yeah.
But I started looking at everything I could, because if this thing's real and it's on my property, I want to know what the hell it is. I don't want to be. But right now, I treat it like a bear, right? I don't walk around, I don't tromp around the back of the hill or above my property without being armed, and I just don't do that stuff. So,
Are you careful to always have a gun on you? when you're out
yes,
there?
shotgun. Yeah, I carry a Keltec KSG, which. So right now I have one in the chamber that is they call it a semi-lethal. It's a rubber bullet, right? Because I don't want to kill a bear out there, right? I mean, I've killed enough bears. I don't need to do that again. I mean, it's not my thing anymore. But the rubber bullet, if you shoot one, they hear the percussion, right? And then they get stung with a rubber bullet. You'll never see that bear again. But the reason they call them semi-lethal, if you shoot a man in the chest at 10 feet, you're going to freaking kill him. I mean, period. And then, so the Keltec KSG it's a 15 round capacity shotgun. It's got 2 tubes, 7 rounds in each tube, and then 1 in the chamber. And I keep the 1 in the chamber as rubber bullet. And then on my selector on the Keltec, left is lethal. So if I get charged by a brown bear, guess what? The selector is going left, and it's off to the races. But anyway, so I do carry that, and I normally carry it, Alex, just so that I have something to sting an animal with more than I don't want to freaking kill anything out there. I just don't. So unless I have to. I mean, if it's for my protection, then obviously I'll dump it.
Because you mentioned bears, have you had to defend yourself against a bear when you've been out hunting or something? Or?
I've been stalked twice by both times there were brown bears. One was on Kodiak Island, and that bear was. It was a 12-foot bear all day long. I saw him ahead of time, and he followed myself and a friend back to the cabin. And thank God we're sleeping in a cabin. If we were in a tent, I would have been on pins and needles for sure. And I'm not fearful of these things. I respect them, right? And the second time was behind my house. I was on a moose hunt. We had a triangle that we would walk. There was a no ATV area. We'd park the ATV, and we'd walk this triangle. There was probably a half-inch of snow we had gotten. We were moose hunting, and the wind is behind or in my face. So we did the first part of that triangle, which is probably a mile run, and then a quarter mile right, and then the run back, which is a mile. And we got back to where that triangle comes to a point where we're joining up and we had a bear that followed us in, and I mean, he knows we're there. We're upwind of him, and it was no doubt. And then a week later, we were in there. It was myself and my daughter's ex-boyfriend, and I had given him I gave him my .50 caliber pistol because he wasn't an Alaska resident. He couldn't shoot, right? He can't. I mean, he could shoot something to defend himself, but he's not hunting. And I had my rifle, and we'd walk that triangle right before, maybe 100 yards before we got to the ATVs. It was the scariest thing I've ever heard in my life in the woods. And it was beyond all the sounds out of the cabin. These 2 brown bears start fighting, and they're only maybe 50 yards to our right in these alders. And it just sounded absolutely terrifying. I've never heard anything like that before in the woods. And my daughter's boyfriend, he's trying to hand me the pistol. I've got a rifle in my hand. I'm like, what am I going to do with that? He goes, later on, he told me, he said, I'm not sure what I was more afraid of, having to shoot that 50 cal with that 700 grain bullet or that bear coming out of the woods. Because when you shoot it with that bullet, it's pretty epic. So,
yeah. Okay. So I would imagine nothing else happened until the time comes where you're actually starting construction, correct?
It was, yeah. But, so, I hear these stories, Doug, that, these people are like, yeah, we go out bigfooting and, 99% of the time we don't hear anything. And every trip to my cabin for the first 2 years, every freaking trip, there was something that happened. It might not have been major, but every trip something happened. I mean, everything from, I mean, I've got literally hundreds of recordings of rocks hitting the building. I mean, we'd go to bed, and actually probably 80% of the rocks that are hitting, or whatever's hitting the building is hitting the building. 80% of those are the night that we leave, or, you know, we leave that day, it's that evening or the subsequent evening. And I think it's because they're trying to mess with us to see if we're in there. I mean, we've turned out the lights, and 9 minutes later at midnight 30, shit's hitting the cabin. And it's just, and we have epic slaps on the cabin. David's got all, David Ellis is the one that found 90% of those audios that we found out, you know, or that have been on the recorder. And I would send him the, you know, the batch load of this is what we have. And he's the guy that, he's a genius, absolute genius.
Well, when was the first time something happened to somebody else?
To somebody else you talking
Yeah,
about?
like somebody who was there and you weren't there at the cabin. Was there
I've
some
never not,
incident?
there's only one time that I've not been there that people have been allowed to be at my cabin. Only one time. And it's a husband and wife, Brian.
Yeah.
You'll know his name. But he is awesome guy. He is my, he built the crane on my boat. He's just a great guy. But anyway, I said, hey, here's the keys. Here's the remote for the stairs. So when I leave my cabin, I have a remote control button with a wireless winch, and I push a button and my stairs come up. So now I don't have to worry about bears getting up there and destroying my cabin, you know, and I don't have to block off windows and all that stuff.
Okay.
Because the front of the cabin, I've got the deck, which is about 11 feet high. The back of the cabin, the lowest window on the bunk room is about, well, it's 5 feet to the bottom of the cabin, probably 5 feet above that, so probably 10 feet high. So, but they went out there, and I actually texted Brian earlier today. I was like, tell me the details of what you guys saw. And he goes, his wife was at work. He couldn't really tell me the details, but what I remember is that he got out to the cabin, and we both have what's called an inReach. I don't know if you guys are familiar with an inReach. It's a GPS, uses satellite, and basically you can Bluetooth from your iPhone or whatever phone to the inReach, and you could send text messages back and forth, right? Because we don't have any satellite. We do now because of Elon Musk, but I'll have that this year. But anyway, I've got the satellite sitting right there. Anyway, he sent me, I think he sent me a text, or maybe it was after he got back from the trip. He's like, so why do you guys prop the outhouse door open with a stick? I go, Brian, we don't. What are you talking about? They went out there and they found the outhouse door propped open with a stick. Just weird, right?
Yeah.
And then, so they unpropped the door. I went out there a week later with a group of guys fish, and I showed them, I gave them a tour of the property after they had unpropped the stick from the door. And we're up there looking at showing them where the outhouse was, and there's a stick propping the door open. So I'm like, what the hell? So I pulled the stick out, and then the next day, I think it was, we went fishing for 4 or 5 hours, came back to the cabin. One of the guys uses the outhouse, he goes up there, he goes, the door is propped open with a stick again. A completely different stick than the first times. You know what I mean? Just freaking, it's little weird shit like that.
Yeah, it is weird.
You know?
Well, let's go through a list then of some of the incidents that kind of the milestones. One Alex brought up was the baby crying. You guys heard.
Okay, so the first time that I heard the baby crying, I had gone out. I had a helper that I picked up from the dock in Seward, and he came out to help me haul out some materials and do some building with me. And the previous days, I had my wife and 2 of her best friends with her. And as we're beaching the skiff with all the building materials, I wrote it in my journal. And it just, I think I wrote something like, while loading materials on the shore. And so I kept the journal first year, but I'm so freaking tired at the end of the day. I might write a sentence or 2 or a paragraph if I'm lucky, right? But I remember writing this, and I wrote, while loading materials on the shore, I heard what sounded like a baby crying in the woods, and I just wrote weird. Well, Dr. Robert Alley Coast Sasquatch. You familiar with him?
Yep.
So that was the first summer. Middle of winter, I'm looking at my journal. I'm like, why would I write that? And he happened to call me, and I'm like, Rob, why would I made this entry, and I don't know what I just don't know what it means. And he goes, do you have women out there with you? I go, I don't think so. I only had women out there, for one trip that first whole year. And I said, well, let me ask my wife, because it was her best friend, Audrey, who lives in Fairbanks. It was my wife grew up in Fairbanks. It was her birthday. So I asked my wife, I said, when is Audrey's birthday? And she said, June 25th. Guess when the entry was made? June 25th. So I had them out there June 23rd. We worked on the cabin, spent the night, and then June 24th, I took them fishing for rockfish and stuff, and then I took them back to the dock, and then I dropped them off so they could go to the Sea Life Center in Seward. Picked up my buddy, young, rugby player, strong guy. So I took him back out to the cabin with the building materials, and that's when we heard it. And then it was 2
Well, what
years
did you
later.
do? I mean, Scott, what did you do? So you hear a baby crying.
What would you do, Doug?
I'd,
Come on, seriously. What would you do?
I'd be a little freaked out if I heard a baby crying at a cabin.
And it wasn't because I
that I owned, because you can't leave. I mean, you're there. You're not. You own this place.
So I think it was 2 summers later. I took my wife and Patty and Audrey, her best friend who lives in Fairbanks, took them out to the cabin, and we were out there, I think, for 4 or 5. The primary purpose of them coming out was to go berry picking, because we get salmon berries, we get blueberries all over. It's just crazy how good it is. So at one point, so now they know what the baby crying supposedly means, right? At one point, I think one of them was using the outhouse, and the other time was somebody was using, or with our berry picking. They heard the baby crying independent of each other, and the other person didn't hear it at that time relative to the other person. So the next morning, so they didn't say anything to each other because they didn't want to freak each other out. So the next morning, I'm inside making breakfast. They're out on the porch swing on the deck, and Audrey comes inside and she goes, Scott, we have to tell you something. I go, what? She goes, so I come out to the front deck, or to the deck, and she goes, they're having coffee out there. And she goes, we heard the baby crying in the woods. And I said, well, if you heard it, I recorded it. And that's the recording that David Ellis has.
Let's play that. Let's play that baby crying. Alex?
Yeah. I'm just looking. I don't think
Alex, get it together. Come on.
I have.
It's in the first minute of the actual show too, if we have to.
Oh, in the actual show.
But David sent that to you.
I can send it to you too.
Yeah, I can. I'll read out what we got here. We got Wahoo vocal.
It'll say
5X.
baby crying.
Yeah, I don't see. I got whoops.
Want me to send it to you?
Yeah, if you send it, I'll get it up.
Yeah, we don't.
Is it okay to text it?
Yeah, that'd be fine. It'll just take me a second. I'll get it in.
Oh, shizer! I don't know if I'll be able to text it to you, Alex. Honestly, because I think this I'm using Goodreader.
Well, David can send it to Alex.
David, come on, send it.
Yeah, David, if you send it, I'll get it in. Did you guys want me to pull up the
yeah, let's do that. Let's do that anyhow. It's a good time to do that because in the first minute, there's all sorts of stuff in the doc. Let's just go ahead and play that.
Okay, so I'm going to play that audio that David Ellis sent.
Oh, you did get it?
That's the howl.
The white cheek gibbon.
Yeah. No, Alex. We want to play the documentary.
How crazy is that, right? You heard the white cheek gibbon behind that?
All right, so we're going to do the documentary.
Yeah, let's do that.
Is there a certain place you want me to jump to, or just start at the beginning?
Beginning.
Beginning? Got it.
Very beginning.
That's an epic hit on the cabin.
Here it should go.
Just sent it to you.
Alaska is one of those places that carries an almost mythical reputation. Nature in its most intact state, with very little impact by us humans, unlike much of the world. The place where something like Sasquatch existing wouldn't be a contradiction, but would rather seem to make sense. We are about to take you on a journey with us to Alaska, to one of the most remote places I've ever been. An incredible adventure of epic proportions. This is the story of codename Area A, or as we've referred to it more commonly, the Alaska Cabin. In May of 2021, I received a rather interesting email. It was from a man in Alaska with an extraordinary story.
Of course, that's you, Scott.
We have not met before.
Yeah.
I have a remote property in Alaska that is over an hour from the nearest town. It's on the ocean and is essentially inaccessible for most. We have things happen at this property that are unexplainable. David Ellis of the Olympic Project has analyzed a lot of the audio we have captured, some of them crazy and some of them very reminiscent of the Sierra sounds. We have had giant rocks thrown, rocks hitting the cabin all the time, and other things that are just too numerous to mention. If you ever find yourself in Alaska, you're more than welcome to come to the property. Anytime you want to talk about what I have experienced and at least 20 other people who have been to the property during the construction of the cabin, I'm happy to discuss. I have received plenty of messages from people telling me about their encounters from across North America or activity they have had happening in certain areas. This email seemed different. I was intrigued, but of course skeptical at first, as I usually am. I gave Scott a call. We talked for a long time, and he seemed extremely credible. He was a serious professional and former member of the military, with little to gain, it seemed, from being involved with the topic of Sasquatch. He seemed curious, while not a believer, but was looking for answers. Aren't we all? He sent me a number of sound files after we spoke. They were all recorded on his property and the surrounding area. That really caught my interest. These sounds are some of the most interesting alleged sounds I've ever heard when it comes to this topic.
Well, the story actually started right here pretty much.
Yeah, I know that, dude.
We're out here on our first trip, and we set that mooring out there, and then we spent some time looking for the rear. We knew where the front property markers were, and we wanted to spend time trying to figure out where the rear ones were. So we did that. It was late in the day. Next morning we got up and we grabbed chainsaws and gas and oil and everything we needed to work on the saws. I'd staged them right where the beach ends.
Okay, let's stop it right there, Alex.
Because behind you was just thick.
Yeah, just hold that place.
Hey, Alex, I texted you the baby bird. Just so you know.
Yeah. I'm working on getting it sent over.
All right, get it.
Okay, sweet. Okay, so what happened after the baby cry that was significant? We can talk about the pounding because
honestly, Doug, there's been so much. So the first 2 years out there was every trip, right? Every trip, something happens. We hear howls, we hear the roars, we have shit thrown at the cabin, we have we find tracks, we find and I don't know how the hell, I mean, this is on this last summer, but how Alex Petikoff, what made him think to look at the back of the cabin? I have no idea. His brain works differently than mine, apparently. So when those guys from the small town monsters came out, it was Alex and Eli and a third member, but Eli slept in the bunk room, which is on the bottom floor. Okay, I have 2 bedrooms upstairs in the loft. I have the master, and then I have the bunk room. The bunk room has a bunk bed, and then it has a bunk bed and a single bed. So nobody sleeps in that room and opens the shade or opens the window, and these guys did both. Which, I mean, balls of steel, right? So, but they slept in there, and at one point, Alex went out and was looking at the back. I don't know what made him think to even do that, but he found the handprint, and he said, when you look at the documentary, he said he sent it to a couple of experts, one of them being Jeff Meldrum, but the one thing that he didn't show on that documentary, which I wish he would have, is the single fingerprint. The single fingerprint that I think actually Baines Baxter took a picture of. But the dermal ridges run straight across. And if you look at ape, because I have a picture of an ape print too, they go straight across. There's no whorls, there's no swirls. And I challenge you to show me one human being that has dermal ridges that go straight across her finger. It just doesn't happen. And you look at this, there's no freaking way somebody made that. There's no way. So that was like one of the most compelling things I think that I've seen out there, besides the tracks, that made me go, what the hell? I mean,
that fingerprint should yield DNA. It'll yield the chemical compound. Yeah, it should yield the chemical compounds that are in the skin oil.
Yeah,
and the sebum.
Like you were talking about, what's it called?
Alba vernix.
Yeah. So we took Alex and I to reproduce what we that print that we found, in terms of the length and the height. Nobody could put their hand in that height, right? And have their hand position, because it's that level, but it's about 7 feet high. You can't really get your hand at that level and that angle. And so Alex and I gave him some hand lotion. We put hand lotion on. He made a handprint on the side of the building. He couldn't have his hand as long as that. And then within 2 hours, it's gone. And that handprint is still there. It's still there, even despite Beans lifting it with his, dusting, doing the detective stuff. So, but that was pretty compelling to me. So,
yep, and we're looking forward to getting that all tested.
So, by the way, I believe I got the clip. Do you guys want to check that out?
The baby clip? Sure, go ahead. It sounds like a young child. That doesn't give everybody chills.
You know what it sounds like to me, Doug? It sounds like the point where an infant starts forming speech, but is not speaking. You know what I mean? At that point, there's a little, at some point, an infant starts trying to form speech, and then he forms speech. And I think this sounds to me like right at that, that apex of where he starts to form speech. It's funny because my wife and her daughter goes, "Oh, that sounded like a sea otter crying," and that because the baby sea otters in the bay, and they do sound not even. Maybe similar-ish, but not even close. They don't make a long call like that. And the sounds that they heard and the sounds that I heard are up in the mountains. Okay, so A sea otter never steps foot ashore. I mean, it just doesn't. I mean, if they get rough seas, they'll climb out on a rock face or something like that. But 99% of the time, a sea otter is in the water. Even rough seas, it just doesn't matter. But if they have young, they will take them out a lot of times to put them on a rock that's, like an outcropping or whatever on the ocean.
So, let's talk about when they bang the cabin. Did this usually happen at night, or did it happen towards dusk?
Always at night. Although
Always at night.
Eli Watson heard something hit the back of the cabin. When we had, I think myself and my buddy John had run back to Seward for something. The three guys stayed in the cabin, just sort of hunkered down to see what would happen, just to change things up a little bit. He heard something hit the cabin, and they were like, "Is it a bird or whatever?" In the documentary, there's no freaking way it was a bird. I mean, you listen to it. A bird's not going to fly into a building. A bird flies into a window, right? But he heard something hit the cabin. But like I said, probably 80% of the hits on the building are the evening that we leave. We leave midday, right? And then, because I have a long drive, I've got to steam back to port. That takes at least an hour, depending on the seas, and then 3-hour drive, so 4 hours. And I'm usually getting home about midnight. So, but anyway, they heard the vast majority of the sounds that are recorded, that David Ellis found, are the day that we've left or the subsequent night. And then after that, it sort of like tapers off, right? Whatever's happening is like trying to provoke the cabin to have something, a response. Right. And it's not happening, and then they just move off or whatever. So,
did these sounds happen, though, when you guys were asleep? Or when
we've had stuff happen literally 9 minutes after turning the lights out, have stuff thrown in the cabin. Okay. And then I had that one of my young buddies, same guy that was helping me load materials when I heard the baby crying the first time. He and I got out there late one day. It was like 5:30, 6 o'clock at night by the time we got to the cabin. I didn't have my dock, so we had to hook up to the mooring, take this small boat in. And so he goes, "What are we going to do today?" I said, "We're not going to do anything. I'm going to make dinner. I'm going to grill some steaks. We're going to relax. We're going to chill out. We'll go to bed early. We'll get up early and start working." And this guy is not your typical millennial. So he picks up a broom, sweeps out the whole inside of the cabin. There was no insulation at that point, right? Just an empty cabin, no floors. Sweeps out the whole inside of the cabin, sweeps off the whole deck. We go to bed at, I think it was probably maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. But he and I hadn't talked to each other in a long time. And he's like my little buddy, right? He's huge. He's a freaking 230-pound rugby player. But so he's in the bunk room. I'm in the master. There's no sheetrock up, so we're talking back and forth and just catching up. And we hear, it was like 10:30 at night. We hear whack on the deck. I'm like, what the hell was that? So I get out of bed. At that time, I think it was around July. So it's low light, right, but not dark. I walk out, look out on the deck, nothing. I go back to bed. We get up the next morning, and there's a lag bolt laying in the middle of the deck, which before I built my storage shed, I kept everything, all my tools and hardware underneath the cabin for dry storage. But it was a brand new lag bolt, probably 3.5 inches long, laying in the middle of the deck. But that lag bolt looked like something had been carrying it around for a month. It was crazy. It had shit all over it. I don't know what it was, but maybe, looking back at, that material you were talking about with the handprint, it almost looks like that because it was white. Did you
save it? Do you have it?
It's sitting in the windowsill in the cabin right now.
Oh, do you need to collect that? Get that in a paper
It's been sitting
envelope.
there for 3 years. Seriously, it's been
No. Yeah, that would have been an ideal object to get. Maybe you can still get it next spring, but
it's there.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to collect that because there could be all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So if you ever find anything again with white stuff, collect it. Super important.
Well, now that hindsight's 20/20, right?
So okay, so when the cabin got hit, would wake you up. Did this shake the whole cabin? Was it that loud?
I was in there one time when the guys were out fishing.
Yeah.
This was last summer, actually. and I had a buddy of mine, John. He comes up. John is retired, so he has a lot of time off, and he knows how to run my boat. I don't trust anybody with my boat, but John I trust with.
No.
And we had a group of guys out there, and I was like, John, you want to take these guys fishing? I have stuff to do around the cabin. And so he took them fishing. They were gone for 4 or 5 hours, whatever it was. And I literally had finished all my work that I was doing on the cabin, whatever I had to do. And I'm sitting on the porch swing, and something hit the back of the cabin so hard that the porch swing moved. And I was, and I didn't get up to look. I mean, I didn't get up to look. It was, I mean, we've had epic hits on the cabin, but that was probably the most that I'd experienced being in the cabin. I mean, it was crazy. So
it was a good boom.
Yep.
So interesting. I mean, there are a lot of parallels as far as what I've experienced up at Snell.
Yeah. You
A lot of parallels.
At my cabin. And hopefully, so we had the first 2 years was pretty crazy, and then the third year, it was very much an ebb, right? It was we had rock throws. Guys that had not witnessed anything before got to witness that. A buddy of mine who's a North Slope worker, Jason got to witness rock throws. He heard the first. He was like a non-believer. He grew up in Montana, hunted and fishing, grew up, all that stuff. And he had walked off the front deck, down the stairs, and was relieving himself. And he heard the splash of the first rock. The second rock, as he turned his head, he saw the splash. And the third splash, he saw the rock impact the water. Okay. He was and this is a guy that's, he's no bullshit. He's a normal guy.
That could be a territorial. That could be a territorial. When you're urinating.
Yeah. I don't. And so the story about, so Rob Roy Menzies, somebody put me in touch, actually, Dr. Robert Alley put me in touch with Rob Roy. I met Rob Roy, and Rob Roy really never investigated before he draws them and all that stuff, but he's never gone out and physically been an investigator. And so I got to meet Rob. I really like the guy. He's funny. He's a cartoon. And I invited him out to the cabin. So we came out, and I think there was 4 or 5 guys at the cabin at the time, and we're getting ready to go to bed. It's probably 10 o'clock. And Rob goes, hey, I'm going to stay up and sit on the deck and just listen if you don't mind. I don't care what you do, Rob. We're happy to do it, or happy to have you do that. So we all went to bed, and and there's no insulation in the cabin, no sheetrock, none of that stuff. I woke up at about midnight 30. I had to go to the bathroom. And at that time, we didn't have a bathroom inside the cabin. So I walk out the front door, turn left. First I expect to see Rob Roy there. And he's not there. And I'm like, Rob. No response. So I walk to the railing on the left side of the cabin, and I start relieving myself. And these hits against a tree are just fucking epic. I'm sorry about that, Alex. Sorry, I tried. I tried. I told you I wouldn't.
You're good. It's all good, Scott. It's all good.
Beep? You got a beep?
It's all good. It's all good.
You got a beep button? Anyway, it sounds like something.
So you were urinating too, and something happened.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was crazy because it hit the tree twice. I think it was 3 times. Rob says it was twice, but I think it was 3 times.
Wow.
But he is off the deck, and he's got my thermal in his hand, and he's got his camera. It's dark out, right? Because it was early season, so it does get dark in Alaska. It's not like somebody throws a switch where we go from 24 hours daylight to, it's like 6 minutes a day is what we gain or we lose. And so we're gaining daylight at that time. But anyway, and this thing hits the tree to the point where you can hear stuff coming out of the tree. I mean, you hear, and Rob Roy comes flying up those stairs. He's like, holy crap, did you hear that? It's unbelievable. And I look at him, I go, Rob, that was bush league. That's nothing. That really is nothing. And because it really was at that point for me, it was nothing because those first 2 years were just so crazy, But that was his first, I think, hardcore experience where he had something that he couldn't explain, and I couldn't explain either. But
have you ever been there off season and had anything happen?
No, but we have tracks from first trip out in the spring.
Okay.
I sent you those, right? The snow tracks.
No, I have not seen the snow tracks.
Seriously?
Yep,
All right,
seriously.
I'll send them to you.
I
Want
want
me
to
to
see
send
those.
them? Yeah, it was. I think there was probably 6 tracks in about 3 feet of snow.
Is
And
your
it
cabin?
was-
Is your cabin by any chance located in the what they call the Alaskan Triangle?
I have no idea what that is.
Oh, Alex, can you find it online?
Find
The Alaskan Triangle.
Show me the picture, and I'll say
Yeah.
yes or no, Alex. Nothing more. No details.
No,
I'm not giving you lat longs, okay?
No details. Just something that shows
Hey, Alex,
what it is.
Alex, if I text you something, can you send the pictures, or can you
Sure.
show the pictures? Okay, so I sent you the fingerprint, which I think is important because of the dermal ridges, right?
Okay.
Alex, get it together, man. You keep them together. So
I
these,
can't keep up with you guys. Okay, so
I know. That's the problem with having a substandard brain, but I'm not one to talk.
Okay, there's the Alaskan Triangle there, Scott.
Yes.
Are you in it?
Yes.
Somewhere?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I was suspecting.
You can't have too much of a bad brain there, Alex, because you get your dad's brain, so
yeah,
it's
so
probably better than mine. I'm
at
like
least
a checklist
50%
monkey.
okay.
The light turns red, I push the button. Throw the monkey a peanut, and he just keeps doing the same thing over and over again.
Have you guys tried putting food out or any of these kinds of things?
So Rob Roy put out a jar of peanut butter, put the lid back on it. We came back maybe a week later, and the lid was off. Peanut butter's gone. Put a second jar out there. Nothing's touched it.
Okay. So
and then we went out beans. So the jar sat out there all winter, right? And we went out there on our first trip of the year. Beans was with us, and Beans and I went looking for that peanut butter jar. They're both. It was so freaking odd. Behind the outhouse.
Move your mic.
side
Move
by
your
side.
mic, Scott. Adjust your mic. It's clicking, and there we go. Yep. Hold it up or whatever.
All right, I moved it.
Good audio is important to
I
this show.
manipulated. Okay, so, but we found the 2 peanut butter jars that were not on the 7-foot stump where they were when we left in the fall.
Yeah.
But they were laid side by side, probably 40 feet away, 50 feet away from where they were. The caps are still on, but they're just laid side by side. I mean, 2 feet apart. So if a bear found those peanut butter jars, he's going to eat the whole thing. He's going to eat the plastic. He's going to chew the whole thing. That's just the way it works.
And I'm sure they can smell the peanut butter right through that plastic.
Oh God, yeah.
Because plastic absorbs odors. People don't think that, but it does. So okay. So the one that had the jar taken, the lid off, was the jar so clean it looked like it was licked clean or cleaned with plant material?
Rob Roy has an idea about that. It looked so there was a giant leaf stuffed inside that jar.
Okay.
And Rob Roy thinks they were using the leaf as a scoop.
Okay.
Now I'm not on board with
No, we
that,
don't know, but
you know what I
but
mean?
it was
Because
super
smooth.
clean.
There was no finger. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there
Super
was maybe
clean.
an 1/8 inch or a 1/4 inch of peanut butter left in the bottom.
Okay.
Alex, bring that fingerprint back up.
Yeah. You have that up. Leave it up.
Look at the dermal ridges straight across.
Yeah.
Show me a person that has that.
That's
Just doesn't
interesting.
happen. You know
Well,
what I mean?
the white material certainly matches what I've been
And that's
screaming
that.
about.
We haven't modified that. That's a picture. That's it. You know what I mean? That is the picture, and it's white, like you said.
Is it still
And
there?
It's funny because when we were, it's still there. Other than it's black now because Beans dusted it. But it's funny because when I was out there and I texted you from my inner reach, and I was like, and you were like, "Is it white?" And you were saying everything that this was. Is it white? And then David Ellis was like, "Is the thumb way back or not existent?" Everything was there.
So we guessed what it was. Yep.
Yeah. I know. Well, I
love
don't
it.
think it was a guess.
No. Well, it wasn't, but it's kind of cool. There was somebody that I was talking to. It was funny because he said they were researching a property in Northern California, in the middle of nowhere, and they had found this big pile of fecal matter, but it was white. The fecal matter was pure white. And I said, "Is there a
Like the white
fish
dog
pond?"
turds?
No. I said, is there a fish pond on the property? And the guy goes, how did you know? I said, are there crappies in the fish pond? And he goes, yeah, how did you know? And I said, I knew the whole scenario. Because I've already heard it.
When you and I had been talking for probably a year, and we're talking about all this activity that goes on out there, and I told you, yeah, the property was logged 100 years ago. You were like, what? Why didn't you tell me that? That's a big deal.
That's a big deal. Yeah. That's generally where they'll go, is where there's been, reprod and replanting, and they love, I don't think they love old growth forests.
I have no idea.
For habitat.
The property was logged 100 years ago, my property.
Yeah, it's a long time.
It was all horse and mule. So you'll see some of these stumps that are 7-8 feet high, and they have what they call a springboard. So they take an axe and put a wedge in each side, and they shove this freaking board in there so that they can stand at a height where they can get their saw through. Because at the base of the tree, they can't get a saw through it. So anyway, but yeah,
the footprints are interesting.
So what the hell is that?
Obviously, they've been melted out, which
it's not a double step, from a bear. It's just not. It's just, and it's so, the shape of it's so.
It's very curvy. It's very curvy.
Yeah, but look at there's one that's a right foot that is it's almost scalloped at the between the ball and the instep.
What is
But look, it's 5 toes, no doubt.
Has Cliff Brockman or Jeff Meldrum seen these?
Nope.
Okay, well, we'll get them to him. Just curious.
You got that next one, Alex? There it is, right there. Look at that edge.
Yeah, it looks like I see toes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but look at that sharp edge at the from the ball to the
I see
to
it.
the what's it called? The middle of the foot, basically.
You're talking about right here.
That's super interesting.
And both of the left feet are like that. Both the pictures that I sent you, Alex, are like that. And the right feet are not like that at all.
It's like a big notch in their foot.
And Dr. Robert Alley said that he has examples of that same track somewhere in southeast Alaska.
Yeah.
I don't know where exactly, but
I don't know what to do. I've never seen a print like that.
I know. I mean, I don't know what it is. I have no idea.
I mean the heel isn't even all that broad, which is really interesting.
But that track is 15 inches long, by the way.
Yeah, it's a good size.
15 inches.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah, that is big.
That is big.
I think it was 7 inches wide. I took measurements and then we went to work. It was the first trip out there in the spring. We just went to work. So
what one experience, Scott, really is more unforgettable?
Okay, so I had 2 friends of mine that I met on a caribou hunt over 10 years ago now. We became good friends because they're from Maine. They're maniacs. And I'm a asshole. We get along with those guys, although they call Massachusetts guys flatlanders, right? But anyway, these guys are great guys. Great guys, but I met them, and they happened to install wood stoves for a living up here in Alaska. And one of them, even though they install wood stove for a living, is a biologist. And he worked for the state of Alaska. He got tired of the politics, got out of it. Anyway, they're happy doing what they're doing, which is great. So the second year, I had them come out to install my wood stove. We're steaming out of Seward, and so we have an hour boat ride at least, right? Unless the seas are rough. So I let us get like 50 minutes from the dock, and I go, okay, this is what's going on out there. And the guy that's the biologist goes, no way, there's no way. I'm a scientist, I would know it if that's real. And so we went out there, got to the cabin. And at that time, I need to send you another picture, Alex, because it's an important part of the story. At that time, I didn't have stairs on the front of the building. I left a sheet of plywood off the back side of the building, and I put a ramp up, and that was our access. The ramp is about 5 feet high. Here you go, Alex, coming at you.
Okay, I'm waiting for it.
Keep it together, man.
In the meantime, I'm going to explain the white stuff a little bit more here. Lori had asked.
Okay.
The white stuff is basically a thicker gooier, waxier, more permanent skin oil than ours. All skin oil does stick to surfaces. It's all acidic. It does things, but this seems to be far more permanent. So
I'll
we
tell you
don't
what,
know.
Doug, it just looked like wax to me. I mean,
Yeah, like a wax
how
paraffin.
the hell did Alex ever? What made him go? I was like, that's how did nobody ever walk out and look at the side of the buildings? But I don't think we would have seen anything before their trip because they're the first
Alex was
guys.
aware. Yeah, but Alex was aware of this wax stuff before he went
I
on
know
that
that,
trip.
but I'm saying that nobody has ever looked at the outside of the building. I mean, we've had, Beans has been out there a bunch of times. Rob Roy's been out there a bunch of times. We've had these guys, and nobody ever took the time to go, hey, maybe we should, look at the outside of the cabin. But, the first time anybody has opened that shade and opened that window at the same time was that trip that those guys did. And they had, like I said, they had balls of steel. I mean, some of the stuff they did.
Well, the reason the wax is important is because it's 3D evidence. You have the latent details. You have the chemical compounds that every primate has a different chemical compound in its skin oil. And then you have the DNA. So you have 3 different things. And since we can collect this particular Alba vernix over and over and over, it's actually quite easy to collect. We could maybe raise the bar on the whole species, on its existence. Yep. So that's why it's important, Laurie.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you see the back of the cabin.
Yep.
Okay. So the biologist is like, no. I would know if they existed, but he's swearing at me. He's talking novel there, Alex. Novel. So anyway, we get out there, and at that right at the top of that ramp, which is about 5 feet off the ground, I shoved a 6 foot by 4 foot piece of plywood right against that opening, and we shoved a 70-pound Yeti cooler against the base of that. And a Yeti cooler empty is probably 25, 30 pounds, and they had a bunch of beer. They drink some beer. So anyway, we shoved that against there, went to bed, and we're Alaskans, right? We're not that smart because it didn't occur to us to have a flashlight close by because we're not used to 24 hours. We're used to 24 hours of daylight for the most part, right? Even 24 hours daylight, the sun goes down at about 2:30 in the morning and barely goes down. It comes up, so it's dusk and dawn at the same time. But this was August 15th, I believe. The date is on that picture. Anyway, that's from that trip. So we go to bed at about 10:30, 11 o'clock. And at 1:30 in the morning, now, if you're looking at that picture, that ramp goes right into the bunk room. And we had put bunk beds in there on that trip. And the far left of the building, as you're facing it in that picture, that's where the master is. That's where I was sleeping. No sheetrock up, no, just studs and all that stuff. And at 1:30 in the morning, something comes in and shoves that plywood in so hard, the cooler goes from this side of the building, 12 feet away, it hits the studs on the other side of the building, and it fucking ripped. Sorry, Alex, sorry. I'm sorry. But anyway.
How many dollars do you owe me?
Sorry, the swear jar's getting full.
Anyway, it hits the studs on the other side of that room. And so
that would have been freaky. That would have been freaky.
But that was like the most. Doug, I'm not a fearful guy, right? I'm not. It's just I was an infantry guy.
No, that I know. Definitely. Anybody who can fly a 747 has got BALLS, of steel. Just doing what you do for a living.
Dude, they teach monkeys how to fly. Now, give me a 35 knot crosswind with gusty winds. That's a different story. But anyway, so anyway, I have next to my bunk, hanging in the studs from a screw, my shotgun. I grab the shotgun. I can't see anything. I'm running to their room. I come out of the master, turn right, past the bathroom, go into the and I'm screaming at them, clear the door, I'm going to shoot. And the whole time these guys are screaming, they're like, get out of here, bear, get it. And one of them, you can see the tieback hanging down in the picture right there, right? The guy in the top bunk is the biologist. He's got his pillow out. He's wailing that tieback. It's making all this racket. And I'm like, I finally got them to shut the hell up because I'm screaming at them. I'm going to shoot, clear the door. And I never did shoot because whatever we heard was probably 15 yards from the building at that point and was running up that hill, and it's on 2 feet. And I've been next to moose when they run by. I've been 15 feet from a moose. You know what I mean? Stalking them. I've been next to horses when they run by, and I'm sure you have too, where you can feel the ground, right? And you can feel that through the whole building. Whatever was happening outside was on 2 feet, and you could feel it through the building's on piers, right? So anyway, it was pretty epic. So.
Well, just wait, Scott, until they figure out they can lift your cabin.
Oh, bring it.
That's coming. Trust me, that's coming. Yeah. They're going to figure out that they can lift the back end of it and shake it around.
Just pray you're not.
That happened at Snow while I was in it. That's just insane.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, they lifted. That's the first time they let me know they were there. They lifted the back of the cabin in both corners and rocked it back and forth.
Yeah, we've never had anything like that. So
well, it's coming, Scott. It's coming. I want to predict it. I'm making the prediction. And that will really freak you out. And then you'll go, oh, they do have super strength.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at this. How many square feet about is the cabin? Just about.
So the cabin, the main building is 24 by 24 with a 12 by 24 loft. Okay. And the deck is 16 by 24. So the footprint is 40 by 24.
Super cool. Have you seen grizzlies on your property?
Not on the property. Okay. At the head of the bay, though.
Black bears, I bet.
We've only seen 4 black bears in 4 years.
Okay, so there's not many of them. Yeah.
The first year we saw 3 the first year. I think we saw 1 the second year, and after that we haven't seen a bear.
And that's actually kind of at the end of their range, a black bear range. They usually don't.
No. They are everywhere here. I mean, they are they're at my house. I'm north of that.
Okay.
Bears. I mean, we have a lot of bears here. I mean, it's a lot. And the thing is that we, brown bears typically are not where the black bears, or vice versa. The black bears are not where the brown bears are.
Okay, but see, I'm not.
Eat everything.
I'm not taking into consideration you're on the ocean. Yeah. That's why I said that. I'm thinking more
black bears all the way up to Fairbanks at 355 miles.
Right, but you're all. I realize that, but you're all affected by the ocean currents. It's a little. Yeah, you don't get 50 below weather there generally where you're at.
Okay, so even at my house today, I think we woke up. It was 5 degrees this morning. Right now, it's about 22 degrees. I went out snowshoeing with the dogs at 24 degrees. But if you look at Seward, it's probably 36 degrees, 40 degrees. I mean, it just does not, because it's on the Gulf Coast, right?
Well, like when I go to Snow Grove, I've only seen 1 black bear in 35 years.
Yeah.
1, because it's right at the edge of their range.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Enough of that.
We get black bears all the way up into the interior here. But typically, along the coast, more brown bears than black bears, because and people don't realize the difference between a brown bear and a grizzly bear. It's the same genetically, same animal, right? But interior bears are considered grizzly bears because they are berry eaters. I mean, they'll take down a moose when they can, or a calf.
But they don't get as big.
No, not nearly as big, because the coastal bears, and they say brown bears are basically, a grizzly bear is a brown bear within about 70 miles of the ocean, because now they have that salmon food source, and they just can pick those things out. And you'll see brown bears, when they eat a salmon, they just strip the skin off and eat the skin. And the first thing they do is they push on the side of the salmon with their paw, and they're trying to squirt out eggs, and they'll just suck up the eggs. And then they strip the skin off, because all the fat on a salmon is between that skin and that meat layer right there. So they just eat, and the rest of it's just laying there. The birds nothing goes to waste here, by the way. So,
you're not going to believe this, Scott, but that's exactly how I eat salmon.
I believe it. You look like it. I could tell by your close set eyes that that's how we eat them, and the drooling, and your knuckles when they drag on the ground when you walk. But I'm not one to talk, so.
Speaking of salmon, Scott sent me some salmon that from your wife's little company there. And
no, it's me, my smoked salmon.
Oh my God, it was the best smoked salmon I've ever had in my life. It was just amazing. So
yeah, you know what? When a friend of mine who grew up in Skagway said, "Your salmon is the best smoked salmon I ever had," it meant a lot. He grew up in Skagway on the ocean, and grew up eating that stuff. So we'll get you some more out here.
Okay, so where can we go from here? What should we be talking about, Scott? I don't want to.
I'll tell you what, Doug. There's so much. So much that has happened out there that we could do 4 hours and not.
Well,
cover.
tell us another story.
The biggest problem I have is that I only kept a journal that first year, and I wished I had done better because I just got lazy, and I'm just trying to build a freaking cabin. I don't have time for this other shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but if I had my journal, there's so much stuff that has happened out there that you just can't even, and I can't make it up. I mean, it's not my thing to begin with. But
well, let's talk about the actual talking or the mumbling that you guys heard.
Okay, so the voices, I've never heard the voices out there, but 3 other guys.
But you recorded them.
Yes. Especially after that, it's called Slap 4, I think.
So is this something you guys record overnight and then like someone like David Ellis?
This is at 2:15 in the morning. We were
so
not
you guys
at the
were
cabin.
sleeping? Okay, you were recording it away from the cabin.
Yeah. So I have it's called the Song Meter 4. And my Song Meter 4, I set it up on September 20. I think the first year I used it, September 27th, I set it up. I set up to record from 9 p.m. at night till 6 or 7 in the morning. So I set it up in September, the end of September 27th. We went out there April 15th. It was still recording. It holds a terabyte of info. So it's just crazy good how good this is. And that's where David Ellis had found most of the recordings out.
Play the gibberish.
You want me to put the gibberish up?
Yeah, play that. Yeah, play the gibberish.
All right,
not my gibberish.
It sounds like a mute person talking, or a hearing impaired person to me.
Let's see here. Possible vocal. I have Wahoo vocals, drumming.
No. Slap 4.
Slap 4.
And right behind Slap 4, there's voices, and I can tell you what the voices are.
Yeah,
how he named those.
I wonder if these were in a different email. I'm not seeing them.
Okay, so, and then.
So he sent me. I got 6 audio, but they look to be pretty much.
Well, just start playing them, and we'll tell you. Just start playing some of the audio.
All right.
As Lori would say, "Come on, Alex."
Pull your head out of your third point of contact.
That's definitely weird.
That's not the good one. So that's the local long distance one.
So
Alex, I'm going to send.
Okay, go ahead.
Jeez.
Oh
no. Only on live video. Just so everybody knows, if you're listening to the podcast, Scott just fell backwards out of his chair. He just did 3 somersaults.
I hate being tethered like this. Jeez.
Okay.
You guys there?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to email you, Alex.
Okay, perfect.
So where did David let us down, Alex? He let you down. David, what happened to you?
Yeah, I think that the challenge is he has so much audio.
Yeah.
David has
8,500 recordings.
From my property or from his?
No, not from yours, but
no, because he's got to have 1,000 from my property.
Oh,
yeah, he might. Yeah. You can just play one, Alex. Just play one. They're all extremely amazing.
This is the Wahoo vocal 5X. All right, I got that one.
The one I just texted you. So the one you're going to listen to that I just texted you.
Yes.
These recordings were made 18 months apart, and David Ellis says he could prove in the court of law that it's the same animal saying the same thing. We don't know what it's saying. But it's 2 different recordings. You'll hear the first recording, and you'll hear the difference between the static in the background and stuff like that. That's it.
That's high strangeness at its finest.
Yeah, and like I said, I've never heard it before. The first time it was heard, I had made a trip out to the big boat to get some dimensions. I needed some dimensions for rough openings for windows. And I came back, and my helper, the same rugby guy, he said, "Who are you talking to on your cell phone?" I'm like, "Dude, we don't have cellular around here. What are you talking about?" And he heard the voices. And then my buddy Lou, I was on the back of the cabin. He's on the front of the cabin. This is the same time that the rock hit the boat. I'll talk about that real quick. But he had walked around to the back of the cabin. He's like, "What were you?" He thought I was howling dimensions to him or something like that. And I was like, "Lou, I'm standing here waiting for a sheet of ply. What are you talking about?" But on that same trip, he was on the front of the building cutting. We're closing up the gable end of the building. And he was on the front. I'm on the back. I was up on a ladder, and I heard something. It sounded like somebody just slammed the door on my boat. So my boat's welded aluminum, right? 1/4 inch thick. And if you just twist the knob on my boat to get on the stern, right? Just twist the knob and let it go. It's going to fall by itself and latch. And there's a little latch on the top of the door. You have to push to unlatch it. It's if you're in heavy seas, right? So you don't want a door bouncing around. So anyway, he goes, "Hey, did you latch the boat on the door?" Because we heard something just go wham. We couldn't tell what it was. And I said, "Lou," I pinned the door open. What are you talking about? And I heard the sound too. So I was like, maybe another boat's in my bay. We never see other boats come back into that area. They just don't. We just don't see it. So I got off the ladder, went through the alders because at that time it was all grown up, and I went down to the beach expecting to see another boat. There's not a wave out there. There's nothing. Go back to the ladder, get up on the ladder, and 30 minutes later, wham! I'm like, what the hell? I didn't even get off the ladder for the second time because I sort of knew what was going on. But the next day, I promised to take him halibut fishing on the way back to the dock. So we went and got a limit of halibut, and we're steaming back into Seward, and it's really calm seas. So I said, "Hey, take the helm. I'll process the halibut, and so we don't have to deal with the dock." So I take care of the halibut. I take my wash down. After I get done, I spray down the fillet station, and I was like, I might as well wash the back of my boat. I started spraying the back of the boat, and in the corner of the boat, there's a rock, probably baseball size. It's covered with a net, which you'll see those in that video that Alex did. But anyway, so presumably one of the rocks made it in, and then the other one hit the side of the boat and made the impact. But it's like somebody just slammed the hell out of my boat, the door as hard as they could. Of course, the door was open.
So what do you think these creatures are, Scott? What do you, if they're real, you probably don't even know.
Okay, so if they're real, because I'm an agnostic, as you said,
yeah,
they are what they are. What's a black bear? The black bear is a black bear, right?
Yeah.
The brown bear is a brown bear. And the one thing that I could say, with all honesty, is that that everything that is happening at other properties is happening on my property. And that's what I can't discount, is that when I have the guys from the NAWAC come up and they're like, "Oh, they do this here, they do that," and it's exactly the same as what's happening. And, a white-tailed deer does the same thing in Florida that it does in Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
Or it does in New Hampshire, or it does in Texas. They do the same thing. They make the same noises.
Yeah,
it's an animal.
They are very
so
consistent.
I say it is what it is. It's nothing more than that. I think it's an animal. If it's real, I mean, it has to be real, right? I mean, from my perspective, even it has to be. If it's there, it has to be an animal, and nothing more than that. I'm not a woo guy. I'm not willing to. I'm just not. I can't go down that path.
So in your area, on your property, I mean, you have berries, you have probably tons of seafood that's on the shore, shellfish. You have ungulates, you have bear, you have probably some type of garter snakes and toads and
no snakes.
You don't have any?
No toads. No.
You have no toads, no frogs.
We have snow snakes. That's when the wind blows and the snow.
Yeah. But you have a lot of food. But you do have a moose.
And at the head of my bay,
do you have woodland? Is there woodland caribou?
We have a creek, and typically the pink salmon run during even years, but in my bay they run during odd years. And the guys that came up from the NAWAC, each one of them grabbed a pink salmon out of the water and held it up. I mean, they
literally
they're
right
there's
at your
thousands.
property, right on your property.
300 yards away. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep.
So there's no question there is delicious food everywhere that abounds.
Stuff I like to eat, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the salmon berries alone would be a draw.
Yeah, and they're like as big as my thumb. I mean, it was
they're
just crazy
amazing.
big.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Alex, do you get any questions? Do you
Any intelligent ones at least?
Yeah.
As opposed to
I
the other
tried
ones?
to throw a few dumb ones out, but you guys were just
I know you're just baiting us.
yapping away.
Oh my God.
No.
Scott's totally got your number, Alex. Totally.
Anyway, yeah. So yeah, there's definitely a ton of food or a ton of food out there, and then we have mountain goats up in the hills. So
do you feel you could make a living on your property?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you
I
have
grew up
grouse?
so poor that I knew how to. I grew up doing what I would do out there because I had parents were divorced when I was 13, and I basically, if we wanted meat, Scott went out and killed it. So anyway.
Do you have excuse me, grouse on your property?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
we have grouse. You know what?
Spruce?
I've never seen one out there, but I know they're out there. We have
Okay.
spruce grouse, and then there would be ptarmigan up in the hills for sure.
Oh yeah, ptarmigan. Probably rodents, I would imagine. Plenty of those.
Yeah, you know what?
I can't think of the name of
First 2
them.
years, I saw a ton of voles running around, and then my Jack Russells kind of took care of those.
Yeah.
But and then we have a ton of pine marten out there. They come right up on the deck. The first time I saw a pine marten, I
they're
knew
cool.
they were out there, but I
Yeah.
didn't know they'd come on the deck. I came out of the cabin in the early morning. I had to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, "Holy shit! A big yellow cat!" It goes diving off the side. And I looked out to the side. It was a pine marten going up the hill.
Yep.
Now they come up. They just about eat from our hands. I mean, I could send you videos. That's crazy.
We just made another dollar.
How's that?
He just said the SH word.
No, well, SH goes. It's okay. He's told me SH word.
Oh, he did. Oh, okay. Okay.
He said
Well,
the
let's.
other one's not.
I'll give you the dollar back. Okay.
I don't know. That sounds made
I'm up to like $18 now, right, Alex?
So anyhow, let's get back to the Alaskan
I'm gonna buy
Coastal
my own flags with that
Sasquatch.
money.
So the documentary got done. Alex has got 1.6 million views on this doc that you're in, Scott, on your property.
Pretty amazing.
So what do you think of that?
I don't. It's not my thing.
Crazy.
I'm happy for him, but it's not my
Yeah.
thing. So,
No,
I mean, this is the first time I said yes in 4 years of people asking me to do this.
Well, thank you.
4 years.
It means a
And
lot.
it's
It means
because
a lot
it's
to
not
me.
my. No, it's not because of you. Well, it is, right? But this is not my thing, right? It's not. If I wanted
No, I know.
attention, I can buy it. I'm a 747 captain, buddy.
Yeah.
So
Very cool. Well, anyhow, the Alaskan Coastal Sasquatch is available free on YouTube. I'm sure there's plenty of commercials, right, Alex? But it is a well done doc.
Yeah, they did
it's
a great
part one
job.
and part two.
Mhm.
It's part one and part two. I am
and they
definitely
don't embellish anything, which is what I
No.
loved about those
Yeah,
guys. Is that
yeah.
everything's not a Bigfoot. Now the big disappointment I had was the handprint when they sent it to people that said that it was human. When you look at your fingerprint, it's not the same as that. It's just
no.
not
There's
close.
no way that's a human print. There's
no,
not
I
a
know.
chance.
I know. And
I
that
mean,
was my
'cause-
own, and it's nothing against Alex. He's going with what he got because he's not embellishing anything, right?
No. Plus, Beans Baxter went and did a 4K movie of him collecting
Yeah. I
the
know.
print, doing the swabs, lifting it, and there's no way that's a human print. There's no humans with that much wax on their hands.
No.
I mean, it's incredible, that print. It's very detailed. Very detailed. Well, thank you so much, Scott. I'm not going to ask people how to get a hold of you because I know you don't want anybody to get a hold of you.
Even Alex.
if they-
Hey, I'm going to block Alex's number too.
Yeah, block him
Alex,
too, yes, I
after
would.
this, you're out. Okay.
I would.
I already got your number, buddy.
But thank you
And
so
I
much,
hope to
Scott.
have you guys up this summer or
Yes,
next summer,
we
whatever
will.
you guys can make it. I think
We
just
will.
having you guys poke around, I think you'll find something. I mean, just if it'll be ebbs and flows, right? We had the first 2 years was crazy. Third year was kind of slack. Last year was really good. And I hope that if it's a year that you guys choose to come up, that it is not in the ebb year. It's the flow season. So
It would be my honor to be up there.
But on top of it all, we'll catch 200-pound halibut. So
yeah, I'm into fishing, so I'm going to take you up on that.
All right.
Big time. So thanks, audience. There were some people that left money in Super Chat. Helton and some other people. Thank you so much. Considering, what do we make, about 20 cents when we do a podcast, Alex? Between the two of us?
25 cents.
25. Yeah, we're not joking.
Perfect.
It's about 25 cents. We do this out of the love of our heart. So, and,
Well,
and
if you
the
add all
topic-
the swear money we earned tonight.
Yeah, we did
I know
earn some
you're in
money
for-
from Scott.
I'm in for like $17, buddy.
Oh, at least. Oh, come on. It's more than that, Scott.
fucking bucks. 18 now.
It's more than that.
Sorry.
Oh, my God. Anyhow, we love you, Scott, and thank you so much
for
coming on. And thanks for your military service and all you do, and we'll
Happy
talk
to
soon.
serve. That's what I do.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
All right, you guys be well.
Bye.
I call you up in the middle of the night. Been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm feeling just fine. You and I will always know where we belong. This ain't no ordinary love we got going on. I'll pick you up in the 59 Ford. We head on down the road until we get bored. Just you and me and the sun and the wind. If the rain should start falling, we'll head on home again. Everybody else can see